Hi everyone. So, as you might have seen from my recent videos or also my stream, I'm pushing Bone Spear Necro right now for the rank 1 Necromancer. And a lot of people think that this is actually a very weak set. And well, there are better builds on Necromancer with the Grim Scythe and also the Corpse Explosion. But in the grand scheme of things, Bone Spear is actually not that terrible. And yeah, right now I'm doing 141s and I'm quite close to clearing it. So I figured it might be time to make a guide about it. So here we go. And this is the regular setup here that I run. So we have the new set from the Necromancer, and it revolves around the Bone Spear. So specifically your Necrom's Bone Spear, your Necrons do like 95% of the damage or so. So your own doesn't really count. It's a little bit like the N6, M4 Demon Hunter build with the sentries. And here it's just the same way. So you have to really be careful about your Necrons to position them properly and so on. Then we have Targul's Corroded Fang. You might ask, why not Cypher to Cycle? Because that one has plus 400% damage and here we only have plus 200%. Well, the reason is that right now there's a bug in the game that makes Simulacrums double dip with Targul's. So they get a ×3 multiplier and another ×3 again for a total of ×9, and that overall buffs the build by like 4 to 5 tiers or so. So if they fix that in the future, they also have to adjust the set, I guess, but yeah. The other key item here is Martorius Petrified Spike. This is another really big item for Bone Spear, so you want to have that generally in a cube because it's a two-handed weapon. So you try to wear this one and then get this one in a cube. But theoretically, you don't really need any offhand. It's just overall a better choice to go with the one-handed plus the offhand because you get more stats, you get more augment and so on. It's just like numbers that make it a little better. Yeah, another key item here is the Haunted Visions. Makes your Simulacrums last forever. And yeah, like this you have pretty strong Simulacrums. They give you tons of damage reduction from the set. And you give you all the curses when you curse something. And yeah, they're basically always there for you and they shoot for you. So this is how it works. And otherwise you have a few supporting items. Most importantly, Brig's Wrath. So I really like this ring. I've already shown this on the PTR and I thought this was amazing. And there is another variation of this where you play without this ring and you go all guilds with a Ring of Auric Ranger. So this is possible if you don't want to deal with this cursing and the pulling. But I would just recommend this. It's so much fun as well. So just playing with Brig's Wrath, pixel stacking stuff, and then obliterating it with 1 or 2 Bone Spears is amazing. And I can only just recommend trying to do this. So this is there. This Brig's Wrath only works on uncursed enemies. So there is, a lot of gameplay involved around, when to curse, where to curse, and so on. Because you gotta be a bit careful with this, but more on that later. Other items, Convention. Yeah, it's just very, very strong item, especially on Necromancer. You have only 3 elements. You have very short cycles. There's Strong Embracers. There's not really anything really that crazy. You can also go with Nemesis, but Strong Arms gives you the most damage here. Dainty's Binding, big damage reduction here, so very nice. And here, offhand, as I said, it doesn't really matter. There's no offhand that does anything for this, so you can just use whatever has good stats for you. The gems I use right now are Trapped, Zaze, and Esoteric. I don't have a Stricken because I intend to kill the Rift Guardian with the season theme. You can remove the Esoteric, but also the Zaze is not really doing a lot. So, if you feel like you need the toughness, just keep the Esoteric, honestly. Just put in the Stricken here and yeah, that will be okay. And when you feel like you're tanky enough, just remove the Esoteric. So Trapped, definitely keep it in. And then those two are kind of replaceable for Stricken, depending on what you need. The skill setup looks like the following. We have Bone Spear Blighted Marrow, gives you more damage when the Bone Spear flies through enemies. So this is also one of the big strengths of this Brig's Wrath setup, because you have everything like stacked tightly and you just get like tons of extra damage, and then those extra damage Bone Spears, they might proc area damage, and like the whole pull explodes. If you have like 15, 20 targets or so, even tier 141, I can sometimes one-shot trash with literally one cast. So this is just, because of the scaling, because of the area damage. Just in general, area damage is really strong. I try to get it everywhere. We have it even on a weapon because I got lucky with the trifecta. Theoretically, damage and area damage is what you would want here. And trifecta is like super crazy lucky. But yeah, the attack speed is not really that important, I'd say. And I'm also missing a running. But in total, I have 149%. I could have 169%. So basically everywhere besides the amulet would be preferred. You don't really need any other stats, you don't need cooldown, you don't need resource, you need nothing. So it's just Bone Spear, poison damage, and then area damage all the way. So that is pretty nice, and definitely helps you out with the gearing here. The other skills, Grim Scythe, Frost Scythe, is just like a small buff that you can try to keep up. Not really that relevant, but there's nothing really else to choose as a generator, so just go with it. 7 Necrons, can choose any rune. I have Blood Rush Transfusion for the healing, and this is mainly because sometimes I hold back with the curse, and the curse is what keeps you alive, because you get all 3 curses at once. I chose Frailty with Early Grave here just to boost that kill effect a little bit, but you can also use like a Leech Curse or Decrepify, any rune that you like, but generally I like this one the best because it's the most offensive choice. And with the Leech Curse actually giving you a lot of healing when you hit something, you can stay alive quite easily, but you don't always want the curse because of Brick's Wrath. And this is why we have Blood Rush with Transfusion, so you can keep alive with just going through the pull here and there. And lastly, we have Bone Armor with Dislocation. This one helps you to just get your Crit Bins bonus up, which we have in a cube. You can also wear it, but it always rolls attack speed and main stat, so you can't really get a perfect Crit Bins. So generally, it's very hard to roll it, just put it in a cube, unless you get a super crazy lucky one. I have Stewart's Greaves. I really like this choice. It gives you lots of mobility, lots of able. It makes you able to run around and make the pulls as you like them, and you can skip maps even and so on. So that's very nice. You can go with a defensive choice. This would most likely be the Razor's Volition, which is the shoulders that give you damage reduction. They look like this, and this can help you out as well. But generally, I feel like with Stewart's Greaves, you do take less damage as well if you're trying to use them to your advantage by walking around the monsters, by dodging attacks and so on. And I tried the Razor's Volition and I was dying much more easily than with this. Keep in mind, you don't have CC immunity, you can get Vortex in and so on, and the Blood Rush is quite a long cooldown. So you need a little bit of mobility to actually stay alive and run around the pole and so on, especially when there's like 50 monsters on the screen. And then the last cube item is the Martorius. I mentioned that already, definitely really nice. For the passives, Final Service is pretty good. You do want to use this offensively if you can, or just as like a safety net, because as I said again, with holding back the curse, it can happen quite easily to die if you get stuck or whatever. So definitely nice. Bone Prison just helps you out a bit with the Crit Bins buff and also the trap, I guess, but generally it's the Crit Bins for the double effect, and you can use this as another stun effect, so to say. Standalone, really nice defensive choice, I would definitely recommend. And Spelling Malediction. So generally you have pulls ranging from like 20 to 50 targets or so that gives you like another decent bonus here when you curse them all. So now about the overall gameplay. So you walk into the rift, you press the 7 Necrons once, and it has a very long cooldown, but you have to do it, and they will stay forever as long as you don't run out of health. Keep in mind they drain 1% every second, so when you somehow drop really low to like 2% or 1% and you don't heal, then they will actually despawn. This has happened to me, but very rarely. But generally, you have to play around the 7 Necrons, and then you play around the curse. So you try to run between the enemies, let them walk a little bit together, bricks them together with the curse, and this is when you start nuking. So typically I try to pull stuff together during the physical cycle, because afterwards the poison comes around, and poison is when you deal damage with your Bone Spear. So you can do it a little bit before poison to prepare yourself, get in position after doing the pixel pull, because stuff is slowed, stuff is like you can also stun it with dislocation, so it doesn't run away immediately when you pull it together. You have like 2 seconds, 3 seconds or so. And like this, you can kind of do it on the transition to the poison cycle. And then, it really comes down to your first 1 or 2 or 3 Bone Spears or so. You don't really have to stand there for the entire poison convention to try to nuke, because, most of the time you do like 1 Bone Spear and like half the pool explodes already. And then you do like another Bone Spear, and then, the rest dies almost. And that's about it. Or you don't do any damage at all. So this is typically how it goes, depending on, maybe your 7 Necrons shoot off in the wrong direction or so, and you might get walled or vortex or whatever, like your nuke can be easily ruined. But if you manage to get a hit, then usually 1 or 2 hits are actually enough to destroy most pools if they're big enough. So especially once you have like 15 plus targets or so in the bricks, pull, then any even like medium-sized trash can start dying quite easily. Important thing to know about the simulacrums is they do teleport with you in your blood rush, and they also kind of stay close to you in general. But when you keep attacking continuously, especially with the Grim Scythe, for example, because you're just like pressing buttons and you want to keep up the buff or so, they will also attack wherever they are standing, and they will not run to you. So basically, before a nuke, you want to make sure that you want to refresh your Frost Scythe for the attack speed buff, and then you basically want to run for like at least a second or so, just getting into position, then do the curse, and like this, your simulacrums have time to catch up to you in case they were not already next to you. Because if they're shooting from different directions or different angles, you might not notice it so fast, or you might not even be able to shoot at the pull with both simulacrums at the same time. So there's really some micromanagement involved that you have to get used to, and this is something to watch out for. Also, your simulacrums can save you. When you die, they will sacrifice themselves. This happens usually after the G-Dev proc, like the final service. You have to be careful. So especially when your final service is down, you have to make sure that when your simulacrums die, you press it immediately again. In some cases, you can try to prepare for this. When you realize, okay, you're slowly dropping low from some dot or some ghost or whatever. But generally, you lose a lot of damage reduction when your simulacrums are dead, and you will almost immediately die in every case. But if you're good and if you pay attention, you can try to press simulacrums again right when they die, and this will actually save you. So just something to keep in mind, that you can play around that in some cases, and this can also help you. Another neat thing, especially in Season 21 right now with the season theme, is that with the Briggs Wrath, you can actually pull stuff into the effects. So it doesn't matter if you get like meteor impacts or a beam or fire wave even, or snowball. You can just curse stuff into those procs, and actually they can be quite devastating like that. So compared to my Demon Hunter pushes, I have to say that the season theme overall does probably more work than on a Demon Hunter. So you sometimes don't have that much time to make the pulls, because here you're most likely like running around a lot more. So I noticed that I'm skipping a lot more than on Demon Hunter, while just running really fast, trying to find a decently sized pull to Briggs together. But generally, with the frailty as well, and the effect that you can curse stuff and pull stuff into those impacts or whatever, you can do a lot of work with the season theme quite easily. This will not apply anymore in the future, but for now, this is definitely nice, and definitely something to watch out for as well. So I play around the season theme a lot with the curse and pulling stuff into it. When you're pushing, just make sure you try to avoid small pulls, because most of the damage is coming from area damage and from the fact that Blighted Marrow stacks up as you hit more targets. So you really want to make sure you have big pulls, and even like some low HP elite or so, you should not try to finish them. It's very, very rare. I had like some cases where an elite survived with like maybe 20 or 19% or so, and I was able to kind of finish it off in like 2 convention cycles, because I just have to get it to 18% and then it dies. So just even doing this 1 or 2% missing can be quite a drag on the high tiers. So generally, don't care too much about the big trash, don't care too much about the elites, and it's really hard to finish off any low HP targets when there's no density at all. It's very tempting, especially because of frailty, but generally the right answer is always skip when you're not sure. That also means that, especially when you're pushing with Stricken, you do need a bit more time than what I need for my Rift Guardians. So because I intend to kill it with the season theme, with a Snowball or a Twister, I don't have Stricken, and I just have to spawn the boss at the 13-minute 30 mark. But with Stricken, you will need a lot more time to kill the boss. So you need probably a few minutes, even a little bit lower than 140 plus. So keep that in mind. If you're playing with the Orgul's version and not doing any kind of pulling, then this is a little bit easier. But also, I think overall the build will probably suffer a bit. Even if you have like the Stricken and you want to kill the boss yourself and so on, I don't believe that the Orgul setup is really better. And as I said, it's also just more fun, like this Briggs Wrath pull is so amazing. Overall, that's it for this guide. I just want to get this out here, mostly because I'm pushing it myself as well, because I learned a lot of things about the set and about how to play it. And there's also a lot of like minor details, depending on the monster type. Some you just can pull really well. Some this is really hard to do. For example, when you try to pull something on top of another target, then typically you can't really pixel stack them so easily. But that only applies to certain monster types. On others, that's totally fine. So it's kind of hard to cover all of that. But something to keep in mind. Generally you want to pull stuff into kind of like an open spot, so you want to identify, you know, like a little empty space maybe inside of the pull that you can pull stuff towards to, because generally if you do it on top of an enemy, then it won't work so well. And having a nice tight pixel stacked pull is definitely really useful, and I can just, you know, recommend trying to make that really work. If you really like the Necromancer, then go try it out, I guess. I believe it's quite fun, and I was not disappointed after, you know, trying this out now on the live servers, after playing it a bit on PTR. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this guide. See you guys next time.